Here's a quick tip. You want to get some great B-roll of some new products, record them as soon as you pull them out of the box. No dust, no particles, nothing on the camera. It's gonna look clean and crisp. Get some great footage. Just be sure if you put a camera lens on a moving platform, don't hold it in place using a rubber band, or this'll happen. Ooh. Well, let me just tell you that the lens is very sturdy. This is the Panasonic G85 with the kit lens 12 to 60 millimeter. And this is a 3.5 to 5.6 f-stop lens, image stabilization built into it. So let's just talk about the lens for a second. This lens bounces great. Something that is worth noting and knowing, when you get your lens, you're gonna notice one thing. At 60 millimeter, it extends. Okay, cool. But when you bring it down, it's one of those lenses that hits 18 millimeter and it's completely flush. And then as you continue to go to 12, it raises back up just slightly. That is something that is worth noting, specifically for when you're traveling. You want to put it in about the 18 to 19 millimeter range. This little band right here, this is actually an add-on. This is a silicone band that I got on the internet, and I'll put a link in the description if you want to check that out. It's actually just one of these little wristbands like this. I got it just to kind of bulk up the zoom grip on the lens, and it's a little bit too wide for the focus ring, which is what I wanted to have it on. But I've noticed with the touchscreen that I haven't used the actual manual focus on this at all. I've just been tap focusing everything. This kit lens is amazing. 12 to 60, in my opinion, it's a great zoom range, it's awesome. I'll list the link to the silicone bands in the description if you're interested in those, and everything else with this camera and everything you're seeing in this video. Something I talked about briefly in my other video, the run and gun setup, is this little neck strap connection right here. It's in the way, like the way I hold the camera, it rubs in my hand. Now, I've had some other people trying to hold the camera and it hasn't been in the way for them in the way they position their hands. So maybe it's just the way I hold the camera. I don't know, I got my big gorilla hands here. Next, let's go to the bottom of the camera. Do you notice anything with that? Check out where the tripod mount hole is. It's so far forward. It's not centered on the body of the camera. It's actually centered what looks to be for the balance of the camera with a lens attached. I guess that's pretty smart, forward thinking. The only problem is when you mount this to a tripod that has a little bit of padding on it, it has a tendency to kind of squish it forward and not sit completely flat. It's very subtle. It hasn't caused any major problems for me. I had one little L bracket mount that I had that I tried to hook on, and I noticed it wouldn't sit correctly because it wanted to sit downward on it because it had grooves. You can see in this comparison that most cameras, every camera I've ever seen actually, it sits centered to the body. It's just weird that they put it that far forward. Like I said, it hasn't caused any major issues. It's just weird because mounting components to it, you'll notice that it's more lens heavy. It sits more closer to the lens. Now these are just a few things that I've noticed with the camera that just seem kind of weird and I don't necessarily love it, but the camera itself is amazing. I came from a Canon 60D to this camera, and this camera shoots 4K, 30 frames a second. It shoots 1080, 60 frames. It's got dual image stabilization with the kit lens. Shooting this handheld is amazing. It actually made me not use my shoulder rigs. For the first time, I was shooting entirely just in body like this. Let's turn this thing on. Let's see if we can hear it in the microphone. Could you hear that? You can hear the servo motors in there actively stabilizing that sensor that's inside. I'm assuming that if you had a very sensitive mic mounted pretty close to this camera, you might pick it up. It's interesting. I haven't heard anyone talk about that. That was something I wasn't expecting. And I assume it's because of the moving sensor inside there, so it makes sense. And that's why when you shut it off, it's loose. Those motors shut down, everything's wobbly inside. Cool. You probably don't want to rattle around and shake this camera. You probably don't want to do that with any camera, but specifically with these series cameras, and you'll know what I'm talking about if you hold one. Just rocking it like this, you feel it just shifting just a few millimeters. Nothing major. But it's worth noting that there is something definitely moving in there when this thing's turned off. Now when it's turned on, it powers up, everything goes in, you don't hear it. So there you go, the Panasonic G85. This is an amazing camera. This is a great upgrade, especially if you're coming from the DSLR world. Awesome lens with a great zoom range. Shoots 30 frames a second at 4K. So if you're thinking about upgrading from a DSLR and you're gonna move from like a T3i or a 60D or something older like that, once you transition to a touchscreen display, it is amazing. It's hard, it's almost impossible to go back because you naturally just want to touch the screen and adjust settings and get everything set up right. And the clarity of this camera, not only in the footage that it reproduces, but the touchscreen LCD is so crisp and clear. Focus peaking looks amazing. And I'm not really gonna go into a full review of everything else, but I wanted to talk about some of those things that other people might not be talking about. Anyways, I hope this video was helpful for you. Leave a comment if you have any questions or if you want to know more about this camera, or I'd love to hear what camera you're thinking about using. And I'd like to hear if you have any comments about this camera or why you like it or don't like it. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching Knob Top. Go make something.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes a Spider-Man.